Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin. Tam Cowan, Hugh MacDonald and Alan Rough are with me here. We're all delighted to be with you. Look at the smile on all their faces. And I don't know if you know this, Roughie, but it's the all-new Hugh MacDonald. Look at how sharp he is. He's bought equipment, Roughie.
Yeah, it looks bright. It looks really bright as well. We can see the real Hugh MacDonald now.
I can only apologise for that, Roughie, but I'm renting this equipment out for private film parties if you're interested. So I'll leave a number at the end of the show.
You look like the air traffic controller who gave clearance to the Wright brothers.
Exactly. Tam, just before we come on here, and you had a great point, which I think is well worthy of us discussing, as well as all the football issues we've got to discuss. It's possibly the first day where you've been a wee bit scunnered. I've had 2 days in the last maybe 5 weeks where I've actually thought, I'm scunnered. How many have you had?
I know, but you know what, Peter? It's starting to get that way. Everybody's mentioning Groundhog Day and all the rest of it. But even before you start it, that's how all the carry on with Scottish football. Now, we really, really need the powers that be to get the finger out and just get it sorted, because we're now living in these times where I can't go and visit my frail elderly mum. I can't go and visit my dad, who, all being well, will be 87 in September. And if you're wanting to get into a shop now at the bank or a post office, we have got to wear a mask. These are the times that we're living in. And yet the guys who are purportedly running Scottish football can't fix this current issue. It's bonkers, absolutely bonkers, and I'm sick of talking about it and thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, don't worry. It's only as Roughie says, an hour and a half to go. So I can tell you that we have a one-to-one with the Ayr United owner, Lachlan Cameron. So I'm delighted that Lachlan joins us from California, no less. He got up out of his scratcher to have a chat with us, and I can tell you right now that it's well worth it. Before we get into the meat and bones of the stories, I'm going to read out some of your special messages. But first of all, just in case I forget, here's your quiz. So there you have it. Which tournament was played in Mexico? Scotland finished bottom of their group. Gary Lineker was the top goal scorer, and Argentina beat Germany in the final. There you have it. That's your quiz, and I will give you the answer at the end of the show. And don't forget, the great thing about the Thursdays, we always try and mention as many people as possible. I'm going to say hi to Stuart Payton, is in Shetland, and he says, I prefer 14, 10, 10, 10. Well, I was going to say to you, Stuart, if you do get a chance, have a listen to Lachlan Cameron, because he gives me what I would call the classic boot in the Hom Oz, Tam, when I mentioned 14, 10, 10, 10 and 3 leagues of 14. Also, Tam, Roughie and Hugh, whenever you want to, Nicola Goldie sent me a message. Could you wish Harry a happy 9th birthday?
Well, I think I should start on this because she's already... She's already had a nice wee message from me on Instagram, and I managed to get Chris Boyd to send him a message as well, because the wee guy is apparently one of these strange ones, a Motherwell and Rangers fan. And I thought that was a bit tricky. But as you boys will know, Motherwell certainly the biggest club, because how many times have Rangers won the Lanarkshire Cup?
Yeah, it's a good point, Tam, actually.
Anyhow,
course,
so happy birthday to wee Harry. Is going to be 8.
I thought he was 9.
Yes.
How quickly a year passes. Happy birthday, Harry.
Happy birthday, Harry.
Happy birthday, Harry. I hope the rest of your life doesn't pass as quickly as from 8 to 9 did.
Yeah, absolutely. Asa Brown, I want to thank you for watching the show, and Stephen Gourley as well. And the reason why I mentioned
Don't hear many Asas these days.
No, you don't actually. It's an unusual
No, I've
one,
only
isn't
ever
it,
heard Days
Robbie?
of
Because,
Hartford.
yeah, you're
Or
right,
is
Sam. It's an
is-
unusual one.
The original name of Al Jolson, Huey, was what? I think he was an Azer originally.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
you're right. Aye,
Yeah.
I think you're
Yeah.
right.
I once
And-
put in a pub quiz one night that I used to run in Motherwell. True or false, Al Jolson was the first black millionaire. And they went for it.
To be fair, for the benefit of our younger viewers, Al Jolson was a fantastic vaudeville entertainer and movie star in the 30s.
Late 20s
and
and
into
30s.
30s. And
Yeah.
before you start kind of knocking me down for that point of reference, Peter, I'll remind you that Al Jolson appears in the lyrics of a famous Proclaimers song. So you don't need to remind too many young people who he is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay then. What song is that? Remind me.
I think it's I'm on my way. I'm on my way, I'm misery, and just like Al Jolson, I'm on top of the world. There you go.
Right, there you go. Who'd have thought, Roughie, he gets a song in at the start of the show? It's usually he kills us with complaints at the end of the show. But
Hey,
anyway.
you're lucky I didn't just close PLZ Soccer by blacking up for that.
Listen, 2 weeks ago, you nearly closed PLZ Soccer. There was women.
Wait, I said the A word. Get a grip with yourself. Sitting here talking to an iPad for whackers and you're having a go at me.
Oh, brilliant. Anyway, apart
pissed.
from that, yeah, for the last two weeks. Anyway, there's lots of people have actually sent us messages, and one of them actually caught my eye, which is there any chance you could start, Roughie, producing T-shirts from PLZ Soccer saying this is not the show for you? because the amount of people, Tam, that have sneaked in who really have annoyed the life out of the decent people is unbelievable. So that's my catchphrase.
Again, folk don't understand that anything that goes on Facebook and Twitter or Instagram is published material. Now, I know Huey's not a lawyer, but he'll back me in that. Folk think they can just go into these social media platforms and say and do as they please, but it's not the case. They need to have a wee word with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, what about
snack there?
No, I was looking actually for a couple of things because I thought we'd get into the meat and bones of quite a lot of the topics we're going to be talking about today. Plus, of course, Lachlan Cameron on the way. We've had the quiz. The one thing I was going to say to you guys, Hugh, the suggestion now from Paris and L'Equipe newspaper that PSG are going to be awarded the title after, of course, the whole season was ended.
Yeah, it looks very likely that not only the title but relegation and promotion from the league below is all going to be decided on league positions, final of the table league positions. Another interesting thing that's coming out as well, Peter, is that Canal Plus, which in English, of course, is Canal Plus, the broadcaster, they are going to withhold some of the payments because of the season finishing early. Now, that would have an impact on the EPL. The EPL don't want that. They don't want to be in hawk to the broadcasters. So, two interesting things: season's been called, champions have been declared, but Canal Plus are going to look at holding back money.
It's funny you saying that, Hugh, because Roughie, I highlighted that last month that Canal Plus were indeed looking at the losses they were incurring, and they actually suggested last month that they were indeed thinking about not paying the money out to League One and League Two in France.
Yeah, but these companies like to make money as well. They like to make lots of money. They don't like losing money either, so they're going to find avenues of not paying out or not living up to the contract if you don't oblige and do what you said at the beginning of the contract. So yeah, you're going to lose money, and you're right. That's why the English League are persevering by just want to play this season out, because they're talking about mega millions.
Yeah, Tam, it's quite strange, but yet they continue down south to look at possibly starting the league there in the summer, which the Mayor of Liverpool says there's not a catch chance in hell it's going to start in Liverpool. There's nobody going to be playing football. But again, the English Premier League persist with this dream or notion that suddenly they're going to be able to play it all within a short period.
Yeah, it's fantasy stuff, Peter, and I've actually given up. I said that I've had enough of this whole debate, and I've given up listening to what the football people are saying when they start chucking in dates into the mix and saying about when they think football might be played again or when it might be played behind closed doors. I don't listen to them now. Too many of them are bampots, quite frankly. I only listen to the stuff that's coming for the government. And as things stand, it would appear that no major sporting events, no games of football are going to take place until at least beyond September, if you listen to what the government and what the scientific experts are saying. So, you know, I don't blame the football people for bumping their gums and maybe trying to throw a bone to the football fans and give us a wee glimmer of hope that the game that we all love is going to be back sooner rather than later. But quite frankly, there have been too many different dates coming out from a variety of people, and nothing seems to add up. So I think they're all just it's guesswork for a lot of them, and I will just refer to the experts from now on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi to Melanie, who joins us. Of course, Dave as well, Dougie Liddell. Una Brennan also is a regular. James McMullen. Mary Henshaw has joined us. John Mackenzie. David McDivitt. Niall Kane, as ever. Niall is a big supporter of the show. And there's lots of people that have joined us and are subscribing, like, share and following our Facebook and our YouTube. So we're really delighted that you're doing that. Thank you very much to each and every one of you, and lots of people just saying they're enjoying the show so much. And from Auchinleck, Robert De Sykes, we get people from all over: New Zealand, Australia, America, Auchinleck, you know, all sorts of places. Yeah,
it must be. It's clearly his turn with the computer.
Yes, Tam. I just geared you up for it. I was waiting for it as well. Andy Wilson's in Australia, Sean McNeil, as well as Keith Berry and Paul Mackay and Janet Mitchell. Just a few of the people on Facebook. I'll be reading out some of the YouTube people who have joined us as well. They don't have the normal names, Roughie. They're allowed to actually put nicknames up, which is quite difficult at times because they come up with little names that if I read them out quickly, I get myself in big trouble, you know, because one of the boys, obviously, the last thing you want to do is read out Maboza Richie from Nigeria because it just gets you in so much trouble, Hugh. You've got to be careful.
quite.
So it's as simple as that. Hi to Michael.
Best ever, Peter. Best ever nickname was sent in to us in the radio about a year ago, and it's fine. It's very, very safe, and it's very funny. It was somebody telling us they'd been at school in Coat Bridge, where the school caretaker was only 4'11", and he was known to everybody at the school as Johnny DeVito.
Which is absolutely
Hugh, tell me, Hugh, I hope you can remember. I'm teeing you up here beautifully like Ernie Wisewood for Eric Morecambe. Can you remember the nickname you told me, allegedly a guy who dabbled in drugs in one of the schemes?
Oh, I can't remember that one. The one I do remember is that there was a competition in the Herald for best nickname, and there was a guy in the shipyards who was like a dignity, the Deacon Bluesong, who saved up for his wee boat, but he had eczema, and he was called Skinbad the Sailor.
That is so cruel. It's unbelievable.
The one that Huey couldn't remember there, he was a dodgy guy, perhaps allegedly involved in drugs in one of the schemes in Glasgow. And as Huey once told me, this boy was known as Cellagram Tam.
Brilliant. Roughie, do you know any nicknames? I mean,
No, none.
Roughie, I'm sure knew the barmaid who was nicknamed Mussolini because she was the great dictator.
And now we
we're
head
on
to
the border.
now we're on the border. Oh, you've got me going. And of course, my
South
favourite.
of the border.
Yeah, my favourite football guy's nickname was the guy One Size, Fitz Hall, who played for Crystal Palace. One Size, just a great nickname.
Neil Poynton, who the nickname Dissa.
Yes, which was a really good one. And I knew Neil well from his days in Edinburgh. He was a good lad.
Justin Edinburgh's nickname was Musselburgh.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one as well. And of course, the other boy who played for Tottenham Hotspur, Darren Anderton, he was known as Sick Boy or Sick Note because he was always on the bench injured. Anyway, Michael O'Kane is from Newcastle, County Down. Welcome to the programme, Michael. We love people from all over who are joining us. Trainbeck, Michael Climey, Mary Wood. Great to have you all on board on YouTube and on Facebook as well. Now to some unsavoury stuff. Hugh MacDonald, first of all. We've had various networks all chatting to Neil Doncaster. Neil Doncaster basically said it's been difficult, especially with the accusations that are coming from Rangers, calling for his head, calling for, suggesting that there's a bit of impropriety going on between him and Rod McKenzie as well. They've called for the suspension. He has highlighted that it's not good for Scottish football. It's certainly not good for the image of the game as they try and get a main sponsor. I certainly don't like to hear suggestions of basically a lot of people getting abuse. I think that as we try and stamp out on this programme, but Neil Doncaster is the figurehead and representative of all the SPFL clubs. What did you make of what he had to say?
Well, I really made of it is a great sadness, but really no surprise. I mean, we know the way that we know the way that Scottish football, when it does descend into arguments and chaos, we personally would know the kind of abuse that you get. So deeply unsavoury, deeply unsatisfactory. It's now reached a stage, though, that the boil really has to be lanced, and it really has to. It has to be, this Rangers dossier has to be first sent out. My understanding is that some clubs are expecting it today, but I haven't heard as yet, as we speak, of any club receiving it. And then we have to look at just what does it say and what are the issues here, and is it worthy of a full-scale investigation? Or is it not? And the clubs should decide that on Tuesday. Now, we know that this, matter what way this goes, Peter, this will rumble on and on and on because that is Scottish football. But it's time for it to be addressed and looked at carefully. But some kind of conclusion must come on Tuesday.
Yeah, of all the broadcasters that were talking, and I've read a number of people who had articles and a Q&A. Keith Jackson's was an interesting one in the Daily Record, saying, given the damage to the relationship with Neil Doncaster and Rangers, is Neil Doncaster's position untenable? I was flabbergasted by that. I mean, I don't think his position is untenable because somebody decides to call into question the way he conducted his business. Nothing has been proved yet. I don't think his position is untenable because one club, is not happy with him.
Absolutely. You can never be, your position is never untenable because of accusations. Your position can only be untenable if misdemeanor or crime has been found. You can't, accusations are not going to get anybody anywhere. That's why I strongly resisted any claims that Neil Doncaster or anyone else in the SPFL, Rod McKenzie included, should be suspended. You've got to find out what the accusations precisely are, what are their validity, and then you can make decisions.
Yeah, the other thing about it, Tam, which I was looking at was the line coming out. Rangers are one of many clubs that have lost trust in the SPFL. Now, the SPFL, that is the actual structure of the clubs. are they unhappy with themselves? I mean, he's a
Absolutely.
figurehead, Neil Doncaster.
It's like you and Roughie saying that you have lost trust in PLZ Soccer. PLZ Soccer is you and Roughie. It's absolute bonkers. And I think now, Rangers need to deliver this alleged evidence. And, it's dead simple. If they deliver the evidence and it turns out that Neil Doncaster and his SPFL colleagues were at worst corrupt or at best simply incompetent, then we get rid of them and we bring some new guys in Scottish football. And if Rangers don't have the evidence, or if the evidence doesn't stand up, then Rangers as a club need to be punished suitably, and then we're back to square one. We get the guys round the table and we move this story on, because I think folk are simply losing the will to live. We all wanted the season to be completed, and I'm tired of saying that now. We all know why we want the season completed, because that's what a league is all about. And more than anything else, we all really hope and maybe even dream that the season could be completed. But as we sit here, even in this programme, Peter, week after week, it just seems increasingly unlikely that that is going to happen. So we need an end game here. And I think the ball is firmly in Rangers' court in terms of delivering this incident, which either causes a red up at the SPFL or else it puts Rangers on the back foot again, and we get other people in there to get a decision, move this forward. It's just crazy now.
Yeah, 2 quick points on that, Roughie and Hugh as well, and Tam, will get your thoughts on it. Neil Doncaster did say, what other alternative to clubs getting money was there? Certainly none was put forward. He did mention yesterday that the whole loan system was elongated and a red herring, as far as every club suddenly applying for a loan through the company process. And then, of course, deciding the leagues. What other alternatives do they have, Roughie? Whether it's the payments or the leagues.
Well, see the payment one, Peter. I don't understand. I don't understand why it had to be a loan. Why could it not be in advance of the money that they were owed? This loan, thing just baffles me a wee bit. The money that they were holding was due to all these clubs. So why not just advance them the money? And they know what they're getting. I think the loan thing just muddles it a wee bit to make you think, oh well, we can see why you never done that.
Peter, here is another way. Sorry, Roughie. Here is another example is going round in circles constantly. Weeks ago, myself and many others were suggesting paying out the money they know on the league standings, and if anything changes down the line for whatever sort of reason or whatever sort of outcome, you would adjust those payments. You'd give some clubs a wee bit more if they were due. You would take some off the clubs if their league placing, however it pans out, was different. That was being suggested weeks ago, and I cannot believe that we are still sitting here, as I say, when folk are dying in their thousands, when we're being ordered by the government to wear face masks when we're out in public, and it's dither. I mean, why are we still at this stage? Why are these people not working on this constantly? They can't claim that they've got other things to occupy their time. We all know the four of you sitting here. If your other half has asked you to, paint the back fence or empty an underwear drawer or whatever over the past few weeks, you can't have an excuse. You can't say no, because they immediately know, well, you're not doing anything else. And the same rules, the same parameters are there for the guys, the suits, the blazers, whatever you want to call them, purportedly, as I say, running the Scottish football that we all love. It is absolute bonkers, and they need to get their finger out.
I wish that had been an option, Tam, or I wouldn't have painted that fence.
Yeah. I hate to put the dampeners on it. You did actually a couple of weeks ago suggest that, Tam, 100%. And I don't want to put the dampeners on it, but it's excuse me, it's not as simple as that. And Hugh, the reason why it's not as simple is because it is an organisation with a set of rules in place, and quite simply, if you do not follow those rules...
Peter, how many rules in life globally have been changed, have been tweaked, have been bent in all various walks of life since the coronavirus. The rules are there to be. They must be flexible, particularly in these unprecedented times. It's crazy.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. The only thing I would say, and the evidence of it is clear in where we are now, had anything been done, Hugh, which did not follow that rule book in the SPFL, look what Rangers are accusing the SPFL of now. What would it be like if they hadn't followed protocol?
Yeah, and the thing about protocol and rules is that the clubs themselves can change them. The clubs themselves can come forward and say, we want this done differently. We're the member body. We're the people that vote and everything. The strange thing, I always call Neil Doncaster the human pinata. His rule in life is to be hung up in the air, and everybody should passing him picks up a baseball bat and hits him with it. But the real problem here, of course, is not.
That's how he gets his hairstyle.
That's right. That's it. Quite. And the problem is here is that there's great divisions in the clubs. That nothing could be done because people were pulling in different directions. The fact of the matter now is the whole. I think, all due respect, the whole loans thing and everything that's passed because the clubs have got paid out. The clubs have voted to get the money paid out. 80% of them have voted that should go, we should pay it out on this and let's go forward. And if we don't, I was quite surprised that you could get 80% of anything for an SPFL vote. So if you've got that at the moment, that's a strong majority, and I really think it's time really to move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter, can I just before we move on, Hugh? You're quite right in saying, Peter, the rules are there and they've got to stick by the rules. But as Tam was saying there, the rule of finishing the championship in the first division, unless you do that, you don't get your money back, and you all better decide on that in 2 days at Friday at 5 o'clock. How could the same rule not went out? See, by 5 o'clock, let's come to some resolution that shares the money. How difficult would that have been to say, right, you've got 2 days to vote whether you get your money or not, and let's change that resolution?
Well, listen, rather than get bogged down in them, I think you're right, Hugh. I think that the point here is quite simply there weren't any alternatives that anybody was coming forward with. That was Neil Doncaster's. This is Neil Doncaster's comment yesterday. I know him. I've had dealings with him before with various contracts that we bought into, which Roughie is aware of with the football contracts. And I am not his legal defence, but I'll be gobsmacked if he is found guilty of any misdemeanour. He is one of those people who is meticulous in his job at the detail, and with the lawyers and the way they go about their business now, especially in board meetings, Hugh. I am led to believe that one of the main lawyers actually starts to answer most of the board's questions because he has to keep them within all the rules. I'm talking about board members here. When they sit down for a board meeting, I am led to believe that Rod McKenzie will say this, and this is allowed because this is within the rules that you all set out. These clubs all set out, not Rod McKenzie or Neil Doncaster. Exactly. All these clubs.
Neil Doncaster, right? Neil Doncaster can't change any rule in Scottish football, full stop. He just can't. That's a fact. Now, for rules to be changed in Scottish football, proposals have to come to the board. So member clubs, which is happening on Tuesday, member clubs have to come forward and say, we want this done. The three of us all agreed to do it, and that's why we want it. You just can't declare things on the hoof.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you do declare things if you do declare things on the hoof, which was an element of calling the leagues as declaring on the hoof, you've got to put it to a vote, and it goes to a vote. It's not Neil Doncaster that's decided that the leagues have been called. It's Partick Thistle, it's Alloa, it's Dundee, it's Raith Rovers, it's the members of the member clubs.
Yeah. Okay, it's one of those ones, again, that could rage on and on, but the rules are there in place and the protocol has to be followed. And again, I would stress Neil Doncaster is the figurehead here. He will, as he mentioned, give people an explanation of what's at stake, whether there's lobbying going on, is it against the rules? You know, that's another thing which will be determined in this case. What actually went on, what words were said to certain chairmen along the way before these votes were cast. Interestingly enough, before we get to that, thanks to Hugh Hepburn, also George Donaldson, Stuart Campbell says Neil Doncaster's wages were 388,000. He's done nothing in the last couple of years. I think we need change big time. I just don't get that. I don't get people's equation with how much money, and they have no insight into the job that a chief executive does. So I think that's very unkind that he's mentioned that. Whether you think he's doing a good job or not is up to the clubs to decide. But the going rate, Hugh, must be close to 400,000 for a chief executive of a country our size.
Well, the thing about it as well is that 350,000, and I'm not here to defend Neil Doncaster, it's quite right if any fan or any club believe that he's paid too much, well, the clubs can do something about it. But my understanding, and it's more than understanding, that Neil's salary included a big bonus for the television deal, which has been signed as well. But again, if any club doesn't like what he's been paid, even doesn't like him as chief executive, go to other clubs, bring forward a motion, and people will vote on it.
Yeah, and you can get rid of him. It's as simple as that. So the clubs are the power here in this one. It was interesting hearing his comments. I certainly hope that none of the SPFL workers, or indeed Neil Doncaster or anyone else, is getting abuse that is of a really serious nature. Abuse at all is one thing that I think we all have to put up with in life, but certainly anything that threatens someone's safety, I think would not be a good thing to read. So I hope they are A-OK. They are, after all, human beings. Lots of things that we've still got to talk about. I'm going to talk about a couple of good things that I think are well worthy of a mention. Roughie, the Hibs fans have bought 5,000 season tickets already.
Yeah, we said that, and I think Tam brought it up as well. A lot of the clubs are now seeing how much they need the clubs, how much they need the community involvement, how much they need to go somewhere on a Saturday or a Wednesday or whatever. And it's fantastic. I think there'll be a lot of clubs like that. Partick Thistle are the same. I think we've raised, I think it's nearly over 100,000 of season tickets, donations and things like that. So a lot of supporters might not be able to help their club, but I'm sure they would all want to do something in some aspect, and that's good for football, because football always brings the people together.
Other little point here, Tam, that I want to get your thoughts on. Again, footballers much maligned, but he's a 23-year-old boy. His name is Alfredo Morelos. He's back home in his native Colombia, handing out food parcels to the needy out there. And I think he's been handing out, over 500 parcels. And I think, fair play to the boy. That's exactly the type of thing that I think, we should be highlighting, the work that footballers are doing, going back to their own communities.
Absolutely. That was a great story, and there's a lot of people, it's not just the footballers, people from all walks of life try to do their bit during these troubled times. But when you even know that there are people, Peter, globally in the need for a food parcel, and here we are still about a game of football. Again, I keep saying it is utterly bonkers. We really need the powers that be to get this fixed. And if I can just throw in as well that Motherwell broke all records. We've now sold 1,500 season tickets in the first 2 weeks of them going on sale. And this time last year, the first 2 weeks of the tickets going on sale was sold 324. So again, to back up what Roughie's saying, the fans are clearly rallying in this time of crisis. But what I really liked about the statement that came out from the Motherwell chairman, Jim McMahon, and it was published, I think, just this morning or maybe yesterday. As I say, we are all Groundhog Day in it. But Jim stated that while that's a great figure and every penny counts at Motherwell, he did stress that he would only want buying a season ticket if they can afford to do so. And while all the clubs do the 0% interest deals if you want to pay them up month by month and all that, nothing of that sort was even mentioned this year, because that would almost, I don't know, I think that wouldn't sit quite right with a lot of people if you're saying, oh look, you might not think you can afford it, but we can make it work for you. You know, you only need to pay us up monthly. Bottom line is, a lot of people don't have a lot of money at this particular time due to the virus, and the people who can do a bit are doing a bit, and it's magnificent. Everybody's rallying. And on that note, Peter, I know you won't, if I get a wee plug in for a thing tomorrow for a St Andrews Hospice in Airdrie that I'm doing, because the more we can get to take part in it, the better. It's a wee quiz night that I'm hosting. If you go to the St Andrews Hospice social media feeds, you've got all the details there. It starts at 8 p.m. on Friday night, tomorrow night, May the 1st. I'll be the quiz master once I work out how Zoom operates. And we're looking for teams, households, families to take part. And it's absolutely free, Peter. And again, in keeping with the current climate, it's 100% free. But anybody taking part who does have a couple of spare shekels, then they can put them towards the hospice via the Facebook page. So it's another great thing. That's one of many things that are up and running just now. I know you've got your own hospice that is very close to your heart. I'm sure they'll be doing stacks of stuff as well. Everybody's doing their bit, but to go back to the original thing, you're right. When you think, you know how as football fans we all used to love a shout and having Alfredo Morelos if he was deemed to have taken a dive or play acting or whatever it might have been, or been a wee bit surly looking on the park. Absolutely, all that pales into insignificance when you see the sort of thing that the guy's doing now, in a story that is much, much more important than football.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, I'm slightly biased on it. Sometimes I think we lose, Hugh, the personal touch of people who are, after all, only footballers. And I think Alfredo Morelos, especially with my dealings with him and chatting, his English is not great, but he does understand and he can speak a bit of English. And my dealings with him last year at the PFA Scotland Awards when he won Goal of the Season was just magnificent, because he's a young boy, loves a bit of banter, loves a sense. He's got a good sense of humour, and when I got him up on stage and started speaking in Spanish to him, you could see the glint in his eye. Just had a wee wink towards me. Next minute, he starts answering it in Spanish. I never thought translating was actually going to catch on, Hugh, as you can tell from the season. But it was a right good bit of banter with him. He was a good boy.
Yeah, but we all know footballers, and we've come into contact with them on an almost daily basis, and generally, the great sort of secret about footballers is they're basically all good guys. They're basically all out to help people when they can. You see that with things like Christmas visits to hospitals. You see that by signing autographs or staying behind, or having now the modern thing, having selfies. I mean, all of us will have a whole tranche of stories about guys that we know whose reputations on the pitch could be quite sort of feisty, but off the pitch they're brilliant guys. I mean, one of the great examples, of course, is Stephen Naismith, who on the pitch is, roundly reviled by the opposition fans, just shouting and bawling and breach of the peace. And he's a guy that, when he was at Everton, was buying season tickets for Everton unemployed. He's a guy that feeds the homeless. He has the annual loaves and fishes lunch in Glasgow for the homeless at Christmas is paid for him. You'll be quite embarrassed of me saying that, but this is not quite out of the ordinary. A lot of footballers are like that.
Yeah. Do you think it's a good time, Roughie, for me to announce that our special guest on tomorrow's programme is Scott Brown?
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. Be superb.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you do get a chance, join us tomorrow. Scott Brown is our special guest on the football show, so that should be interesting. Anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right, Hugh. It's like that. Although I don't know about you, Hugh, but Roughie and I are certainly not happy. We are calling for an investigation into why they've chosen that particular host at St Andrew's Hospice. I mean, it's quite clear he's got a dodgy character. There's a bit of jiggery pokery at times when it comes to being a host of a quiz. You need to have the skills. I mean, it's just a disgrace. Roughie and I genuinely think, there's something going on here, and we're demanding an investigation as to why we weren't called for it.
There's apparently a lot of text. There's apparently a lot of texts on WhatsApp, Peter. There's a lot of WhatsApp evidence that'll actually do this one.
Can I give you just a nice wee bit of inside info? Because it only happened about half an hour before we came on air, Peter. I had to send it's 5 rounds of 6 questions. And I put my heart and soul into it. I did tell you for years, the Bentley Hotel in Motherwell, the snooker club in Motherwell, which you were very familiar with. I did the quizzes in there for years and years and years. So I put my heart and soul into it, was very happy with it when I finished all the questions. I popped them over to Louise O'Donnell at the St Andrew's Hospice. I said, there you go, there's with the answers. That means more at your end, and I can go on with presenting the quiz. And she pinged me a wee message back saying, Tam, question 1, very first question. Question 1, can you change it? There may be youngsters and families taking part. It's a wee bit rude.
Why do I not find that a surprise? Unbelievable.
Don't get me wrong. As much as I love the St Andrew's Hospice and I've been involved with it for years, and I would never take a penny out of them, there was a wee tiny bit of me, because we're all getting worn down, but I felt like
trust him to go.
You know exactly what I mean, Peter. Yes.
Fantastic. Anyway, Brian Mackay's joined us. Hugh Hepburn as well, Gary McGurn, Stuart Derrick, Jim McAloon, Thomas Dobbin, lots of people joining us on the programme. Gabriella Welsh as well. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Now, interestingly enough, we have been chatting away there about some really, really nice gestures in this very difficult period. But I can tell you, as well as announcing that Scott Brown will be our guest on tomorrow's programme, we have a guest for today, and I'm delighted to say that earlier I caught up with him. He was up out of his bed very early indeed. Ayr United's owner, Lachlan Cameron, is speaking to us now. Well, I'm delighted to say we are joined by the Ayr United owner, Lachlan Cameron, who's in LA as we speak. Lachlan, are you fit? Are you safe? Is your family well?
Yeah, everyone's doing fine. Kids are home from college, so they're not real thrilled about it. But yeah, everyone's doing fine, thanks.
I know that your dad was a keen amateur footballer and took you to see Ayr United in the 80s. So that's your affiliation. But how does a man from Pasadena, California, continue his passion with Ayr United?
I mean, like you said, kind of in the blood, like anyone else. My dad started taking me, and before that, he always took me to see Scotland games, both in person and around here in the Loch Ness Monster Pub and down to Santa Monica and places like that. And I just kind of got into Ayr United through him, and then just kept it going.
The key question here is, of course, you're a businessman. The blueprint that you operate with Ayr United now is they've got to be self-sufficient. They've got to hopefully try and develop their own talent. Is that the way you think Ayr United and other clubs of that stature should go?
Definitely. I think, we all have to maintain some financial responsibility. Some do it well and others don't. And those who don't eventually pay the price.
I know for the 15 years you'll have had some highs and some lows along the way. You got a manager in Mark Kerr. I know Mark, he's a nice lad. He was a lovely footballer as well. He's slightly different from your previous manager, Ian McCall. What influenced you to give him the big job?
Well, he wasn't really on my radar, to be honest. But we let him apply, and he impressed, and he had a big support within the squad, within the football community itself. He's well respected among the players. Other teams. I spoke to other other managers about him, and his vision for what we're going to do and how we're going to do it seemed perfect to me, and he just beat out all the other candidates.
Ayr United play a crucial part in Scottish football, 42 clubs over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know if you, looking outside into this, can believe the mayhem that's going on with the 42 clubs and how we've dealt with not only coronavirus, but, of course, something that looked like a straightforward resolution vote.
Well, to be honest, I thought it was pretty straightforward. It's the aftermath of it that doesn't seem to be so straightforward. So, we're trying to work that out just now and just waiting to see what comes forth. But yeah, it's nothing about Scottish football really surprises me anymore when it comes to chaos and mayhem. So maybe this is just par for the course. But it was a pretty straightforward vote. It passed, and as far as I'm concerned, the season's over. And now we're just looking to see how we're going to restart and what the format's going to be for next season.
What influenced your vote in the resolution, Lachlan?
Well, really just that, looking at the time of the year, we were coming up. As soon as this happened, I thought May 15th was about the date that we needed to, April 15th was about the date that we would need to have something decided. Because with contracts running out at the end of May, there's just no way with contract law and players going away on pre-contracts and other teams signing and all the players running out of contracts that we'd be able to continue the season beyond the end of May. So it seemed to me the only reasonable thing to do would be to end the season null and void and just restart next year. And then that was explained by the SPFL in the paper why we couldn't do that. And so the next reasonable option seemed to me to end the season with declaring whoever was in first place as the champion and whoever was in last place in the relegation spot. And others seemed to agree because it passed by 81% or something like that.
Just picking up on that point, a lot of people had to have certain things explained to them. And in the aftermath, as you said, it seems to have created a bit of mayhem. Did you feel in any explanation or any discussions that you were bullied or coerced at any time?
Well, I didn't speak to anyone at all, so it'd be pretty tough to be bullied. But no, I didn't. It was pretty simple. I think it was a 14-page document and laid it out pretty clearly what our options were. Or the one option, or the two options, I guess, yes or for or against. But no, I didn't speak to anyone, so no, I didn't feel bullied at all.
And in the aftermath, when the vote was coming out and everybody started to realise how each club had voted, the criticism seems to be that quite a lot of chairmen, chief executives, owners of clubs were unhappy that suddenly Dundee seemed to be in a position of power. What was your take on that?
I mean, obviously I wasn't thrilled. But, it's really the SPFL were asking us to make a decision in a couple of days, right? Whatever it was. I think we got the papers on Wednesday morning and we had to make the decision on Friday. Now, per the bylaws, you have 28 days if you want it. Because of what's going on with the coronavirus, I think everyone recognized that we needed to all look past that and try to get it in as soon as possible. But you maintain the right to hold the 28 days. So at the time, I just kind of thought, well, maybe they're doing it for a reason, or maybe they just screwed it up. But they have the 28 days. I wasn't thrilled about it, and I didn't like the idea that someone was in a position of power. In fact, to the point where I called the SPFL and said, well, why don't I just change my vote to no?
What was the reaction when you phoned them?
Very professional, typical of Neil Doncaster, which is who I spoke to. He explained to me that the way the rules were, that you weren't able to change a yes vote to a no, just a quirk of the rules. The only way you were to do it was the other way around.
Yeah. What's your take on the way this has all been? Was there anything that you would have done better? You could have advised them they should have done better, things that displeased you?
I mean, to be honest, it's pretty easy to look back and pick apart the carcass and decide what was right and what was wrong. But, everyone's making a huge deal out of this, and it is a huge deal because people are getting promoted and people are getting relegated in it, and it is a big deal. But it was a pretty simple vote. You either voted for it if you agreed with it, or you voted against it. There wasn't going to be mass problems either way. If you agreed with it, you voted for it. If you were against it, you voted against it, and that was pretty simple. So I don't know why everyone is making such a big deal and wanting tons of other options and all the rest of it. They gave us 2 options, yes or no, and clubs were able to decide, and they overwhelmingly decided to vote for it.
Yeah. A couple of questions before you go, Lachlan. Now we're in a situation where, apart from the questions that are being raised about Neil Doncaster and Rod McKenzie, the next step, apart from that little war which is going on at the moment, is the reconstruction element of it. It could be 14, 14 and 14, or it could be 14, 10, 10 and 10. What would you like to see and why?
Well, you must have information that I don't, because I sit on the reconstruction committee, and unless there's information out there that I don't know, this 14, 14 and 14, 10, 10, 10 as the 2 choices is just flat out false. No one's proposed anything going forward.
Is there something that you'd like to see?
I mean, yes, obviously, I seem to be out of whack with everyone else, but I've long maintained I think we should have 2 leagues, 18 and 22 or 18 and 24 or 20 and 22, whatever you want. I like the idea of home and away. I don't really care about Old Firm playing each other 4 times. I know that that's where the money comes from, but I'm more interested in parity for the leagues, and I think long term we'd be much better off if we had a little bit more parity in our leagues, because it would make it more interesting and it would eventually draw more money into the game, and I think it would engage supporters at a much higher level. But that's just what I think.
And forgive me for maybe jumping the gun, Lachlan, but if somehow, by some twist of fate, it does end up an option of 3 14s or 14 and 3 10s, which one would you go for and why?
I think I would vote against both those. I think that, what are we doing? How does that solve anything? If we're going to go to 14, 14 or 14 or 14, 10, 10, 10, I'd rather just stay where we are until we can make a better solution going forward. We don't have to change our format for next year. We can take some time and think about it. I certainly wouldn't be jumping in and rushing and making a decision to change it to 14, 14, 14 or 14, 10, 10, 10, because I don't think it solves anything. But, again, none of those things have been proposed yet. A lot of things have been discussed. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas, and Les Gray is collating all that. And once we have the next meeting, I think we'll start to narrow down on what the actual choices are. But I think these two formats you're talking about are really just press talk. That hasn't, as far as I know, anyway, the meetings I've been in, it's just been talked about along with all the other ones.
Finally, then, before you go, as an outsider looking in, you've mentioned that we are a fairly unique country for bickering and fighting, and if we can create a problem out of nothing, we certainly will. What would you like to see happen in Scottish football? Do you think there needs to be a greater communication, a greater transparency, trust? Someone that can lead from the front and get everybody back on side? What would you do? What changes would you make?
I don't consider myself that much of an outsider, but I think I've got the experience of looking at American sports and football in Scotland. And to be honest, I think sometimes there's too much power within each club. The voting structure. I would have the clubs elect a representative, a commissioner, who would make decisions for the benefit of Scottish football, and that would. It wouldn't decrease the amount of bickering and arguing about what was happening, but at least things would actually happen. You could put it in the charge of the commissioner, and he or she could make the decisions, and then the clubs have the right to vote that person out the next time the election comes up. But you have one person in power, one person making the decisions for the benefit of Scottish football as a whole. Right now, we're too stacked towards particular teams and particular leagues. And anyway, that's what I do.
Lachlan, it's been an absolute joy speaking to you. I mean, the great thing about you living out there and being able to play golf out there, you know that your dad came from a country where the best golf courses are.
That is fact.
Listen, fingers crossed we get to see you back here in Scotland. But for the moment, Lachlan, thank you very much for sparing your time here on the Football Show.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
What do you make of that, Hugh?
He's always an interesting guy, Peter. He's always he's always thinking outside the box, perhaps because he's got that geographical distance at times from the game, although I know he's heavily involved. There's about 3 or 4 great lines in that, as you know, for a journalist in that interview. Most pertinently, how he would vote at the moment on league reconstruction. I think that's very interesting, coming from a man who's on the committee himself, and the call for a commissioner, which I think is would be a wonderful thing, but has got as much chance of happening as I have of going out with Kylie Minogue tonight, and I think that's pretty remote.
Yeah, absolutely. If Kylie does turn up, could you phone me immediately, Hugh? Because that would be absolutely sensational.
So, the last twice she hasn't.
Yes.
She hasn't. So we'll wait.
I thought his comments were interesting, Tam.
Yeah, I could remind Hughie right away that Kylie Minogue can't go out with Kylie Minogue tonight. Right, so calm down. I think he's always a very interesting character. I mean, I even go back to when maybe it was about 10, 15 years ago, where to help publicise the new Ayr United kit at the start of a season, he would have a couple of lovely young models naked and painted head to toe in the Ayr United team colours. And you always think if he'd had tried that in the 70s, there might have been a lot of folk thought, I didn't know the Ayr United kit had a sporran.
Roughie, I know it's one of those stunts that you certainly would have turned up for anyway. But it's some interesting points here, because as Hugh mentioned, sometimes if you can get someone to look out with the circle, he doesn't live here. He lives in LA, comes over here for periods of time. It's good to see someone's look at sport from out with it, and maybe look at ways that you could actually improve our game instead of our insular thinking at times that we go through time and time again.
But it just shows you, Peter, how difficult this league reconstruction is going to be. We all thought that the 14-10-10-10 or the 14-14-14 was the only thing on the table, and it's not, according to Lachlan. It's just an idea that some people have thrown out there. Some people have other ideas. So it just shows you how far away we are for this. This has got a long, long way to go, and it'll be really, really interesting to see how it all pans out. But his idea of the 2 leagues, I think that was one of the reasons why we stopped the 2 leagues, because it was getting a bit too monotonous, and it just makes it difficult for me to get my head around when this is all going to happen. Because he's on that committee and he's listening to all the different views, and I think we're a way anywhere near getting this sorted out.
Peter, the one thing I would like to say about league reconstruction, and it means that I've got to, this is a hanging offence in Motherwell, but it means that I've got to disagree with the great Willie Pettigrew. Willie was an interview, I think, with Kenny MacDonald in the Scottish Sun last week, and Willie looked back. I think the last time we had the 2 real big leagues at the top end of Scottish football. Willie was making the fact that if we went back to those days, then there would be too many boring games. But that, quite frankly, and I would say to Willie Pettigrew's face, is nonsense, because what we would do now, if you had bigger leagues, we wouldn't allow for meaningless games. In the current era, when we have playoffs and we have splits, etc., you could easily engineer it so that there would never be any dull mid-table games. You would make sure that every game right to the end of the season had a purpose. So I think that could happen, but I don't want to go around in circles now with a conversation about league reconstruction, because that's also absolutely tedious.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you want to do today? Because I think this is your Scunner day. This is. Are you want to hold up the Joker card, because you're Scunner today? I can tell by your face.
I've had a busy day. That's how, and I'm not used to being busy these past 5 weeks. But between the quiz for the hospice, some quite tricky fractions homework for my wee lassie, and my wife is an absolute angel. But when it comes to anything to do with numbers or anything, arithmetic, mathematics, she, by her own admission, is hopeless. So I had to help the way out with that. And I done a couple of bits and pieces, including a tutorial on Zoom to try and get sorted. So I'm just going to finish today's show and have myself a nice wee drink or something, Peter.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Hugh, you'll never believe it, but it's amazing how Tam's life and mine, all over the last 20 years, has followed a very similar path. Because I actually looked at my daughter the other day there and I thought, wow, I thought I'd left school quite a few years ago, but I'm now having to actually go through refresher courses on fractions, pronunciation, spelling, English, all the things that you thought you were leaving behind. We're now back on it.
That's right.
The only difference, me and Peter, is I have never been arrested with spray painting offence in Larkhall.
Yeah, absolutely, because you didn't want to pay the taxi fare. It's metre and a half from Motherwell. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But it's all these things that you have to do. The changing life of guys like me and Tam, who just like to go out for a pint with our mates and have a good laugh down the electric bar when you were 16.
What's a taxi?
Yeah. Yeah, a taxi, Roughie, I have to be honest with you, when we used to go to a place in Hamilton. It was called 3Ds in Park Lane. Do you remember Park Lane? Jimmy Johnston used to own, I think Jimmy Johnston used to own it when it was called Circles, Roughie. You would remember that. Yep. Do you remember that?
No, I wasn't a Hamilton boy at all. No.
Well, to be fair, by the way,
Jimmy Johnston, Peter, he had the one when it was next to, which is no longer there as well, when it was right next to the Odeon in Hamilton, the picture hall. That was the one that Jimmy Johnston had, yeah.
Yeah. So it was Park Lane, Hugh, and 3D's nightclub. But if you actually, suddenly thought you're lucky and you've pulled, and she said she was from Hamilton or any of those areas, you had to let her go, because it's metre and a half in the taxi home. It's just a nightmare, when you come from our villages, you just think, no, it's been great. It's been great with you, Hen. You've been a right good laugh, but I'll see you later. And it's as simple as that. You have to stay with your own kind. Simple as that, So you just go home with your sister.
With the taxi thing, with the and then I was getting told off. I was getting told off. I'm just wondering with the taxis now, under the coronavirus rules, will the metre and a half be changed to 2 metres?
Exactly. Oh dear. Anyway, so by the way, it's in the last couple of minutes, PSG have been declared champions, Hugh. So it's now official, which starts
Scotland.
Yes. Yes. By some twist of fate. That was amazing.
How did that happen?
Well, because obviously John Nelms had the deciding vote and decided this would stop everybody arguing, to be honest with you. Let's give you the answer to the quiz, which was 1986. Did you get that, Roughie, in the quiz today?
Yeah, I would like to think so, Peter. I think that was one of the World Cups I was at. It was a nightmare against Uruguay in the last game. But another great occasion. It was brilliant. Brilliant to be part of. Watching some of the games. I was watching some of the games today. I was watching the Northern Ireland Spain game, which was fantastic. All these games, World Cup games are on. But yeah, that was a good one. 86.
Just out of curiosity, Roughie, where was that on?
I'm not sure, Peter. It was on the big telly thing I've got through in the living room.
Yeah, dumb one.
The big screen. I don't know. I haven't a clue.
Was it the 1982 Spain Northern Ireland game?
The 82, the 1-0 game,
Yeah.
Jerry Armstrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the 86 one was on as well. Just
Yeah,
after they show you three.
I don't know about you, but Tam, you know what it's like. You just mentioned a great name there in Willie Pettigrew, but that game, I absolutely loved it, Hugh, because the Northern Ireland team had some unbelievable players. Jerry Armstrong, Billy Hamilton, Norman Whiteside, Mal Donaghy was in the side as well. Sammy McElroy, they had a great team. Jimmy Nichol, they had a great team. Pat Jennings as well. And I wonder, Ruffy, if you can tell me the name of the Spanish goalkeeper.
Araconda.
Okay, I think Araconda was a movie about a snake. Ruffy. It was Arcanada.
That was his nickname. It was
Ruffy. It was close.
It was close. It's like the Eric Morecambe line. It was all the right letters, but just in the wrong order.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you one thing, Peter. I don't know if I'd told you this before, but even the mention when you originally mentioned the Mexico '86 World Cup, and this is gospel, I just get like Vietnam style flashbacks, because I don't know if did I tell you I was hospitalised during the '86 World Cup? Did I ever tell you
that's a story we haven't heard that one.
Well, I was I had a wee windy cleaning round in our scheme in Motherwell in the summer of 1986. I had worked with the old windy cleaner the year before, kind of apprenticeship, if you like, right? He was a one-armed windy cleaner, right? And I used to stand at the bottom of the ladder and wring out his cloth for him, right? So, but it was a good apprenticeship, right? But the year that I did the actual round in 1986. I was halfway up my ladder. It had been a scorching hot summer. I was halfway up my ladder at one point, gasping for a drink, climbed down the bottom of the ladder, and I remember the woman's door that I was at, a woman called Betty Ingalls, who lived near my mum. Down to the bottom of the ladder, I grabbed a bottle of limeade. I even remember the drink. It was a bottle of Robertson's limeade that I had down next to my bucket. And I picked it up, and just because of the heat, the searing heat, just as I made contact with the bottle, it smashed into a million bits and lacerated my left arm. And you want to have seen the blood. And I was rushed up to it was a law hospital still at the time, and had to get stitches and all the rest of it. So whenever MD mentions the '86 Mexico World Cup to me, I just get a wee jolt and a forearm.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, Ruffy, but it was such a good story. But did you not feel he was about to enter into a Confessions of a Window Cleaner story?
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought that was coming. I just know.
When I heard the window cleaner in one arm, I went, here we go.
Exactly. I thought there was a gag coming. I just honestly, and then of course. The reason why he threw me off, Hugh, is he was bringing his new material, which I've told him before. The last thing we need on here is new material. Ruffy's still doing the same stuff from 1986. Incidentally, can I just say, Ruffy, you didn't play. You didn't play in '86 in the World Cup. You were in the squad, but you and Graham Sharp just had a holiday, didn't you?
Yeah, me and Graham Sharp were outside the actual 18, so we were well all together, and we used to, every game we went to, we couldn't even sit under the substitute bench. We couldn't.
I should hope not.
we had to sit outside. It was a nightmare. 100 degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you say Canada for us again, Roughie? You've had all sorts of problems today. Thank God you said sit under the tree. Anyway, apart from anything else, I just want to mention to you guys, and I hate to do this because it's right at the end of the programme, but it would be remiss of me not to, just because, like yourself, Tam, like you, Hugh, and Roughie was lucky enough that he got to play at the highest level. But I think I speak for you guys and everybody who's on our Facebook and our YouTube as well. Football fans, fanatics, love a bit of nostalgia and memorabilia and watching old games, as Roughie's just mentioned. And I was kind of sad today as well to read that Trevor Cherry had passed away at 72 years of age, right off the back of Norman Hunter as well. Great players from your childhood. You know, he played in the European Cup semi-final. He won a First Division championship with Leeds in 1974. Such another sad loss to the game, Hugh.
Yeah, he was one of those Leeds players as well, but he was almost the perfect Leeds player because Leeds had a great reputation for being hard, which Trevor Cherry was. But Leeds also had a great reputation of being able to play football too, and Trevor Cherry could do that. He won a lot of caps. He went on to play for Bradford, etc., Huddersfield. Good player from a good team, and yet another one lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it kind of makes you feel old, Peter, because if I just close my eyes, Trevor Cherry to me at my age is a Panini football sticker. That's what I think when I think of Trevor Cherry. When he would have been in his pomp. If you go back maybe 40 years ago when he was at the veteran stage and the real class act, I would have been about 10. And Trevor Cherry to me, I can see him in that Panini sticker album, But I know it's another great name, and I only hope that, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about, guys like Roy Hudd or Eddie Large, or you're talking about Norman Hunter, Trevor Cherry, you would hope that when all this is over, that proper tributes will be made to these people, because it did break my heart. We were having a laugh about it a few weeks ago, how that the first thing I ever got on the telly when I was about 18 or 19 was a wee sketch on the Little and Large show. But Little and Large were absolutely huge. And see, when I read there last week that his old partner, Sid Little, was one of only 7 people, a guy like that's funeral, a guy who could bring in an audience of 17, 18 million on a Saturday night, whether you thought they were great or whether you thought they were rotten, it didn't matter. They were hugely popular. And you would hope, it was heartbreaking seeing Sid Little pictures of him breaking down after he delivered the eulogy to his old pal, his old sparring partner. And you would hope that all these people will get a fitting tribute at the other end of this. And on that note as well, when the programme makers, when all the broadcasters are starting to almost slit their wrists at the thought of the black hole that is going to be in the schedules, maybe for the folk who have passed away, they could dig into the archives and stick on some programmes paying tribute to these guys. It would be, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tam. I think there'll be lots of people who will, go to a private wake, then one of those, big church gatherings where people can pay tribute to them as well. I think they will do that. Certainly for Norman Hunter and Trevor Cherry, I'm almost certain Leeds United will indeed pay tribute to them as well. Although, and I don't think he'll be mad at me for saying this, Tam. Just on that, a couple of months, in fact, more than a few months ago, I think. Hugh, you are privy to this information, so is Roughie. Mm-hmm. Hugh even said to me in a phone call when I go, he says, I want you to do my eulogy. And I was absolutely surprised. And I said, well, I mean, you've got a good 2 years in yet, Evo. I says, calm your jets. And I said, but what do you want me to do? And he says, just scattergun everybody. And just tell them exactly what I think of them. Annihilate the entire audience. And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop laughing. And then as soon as I told that story to Roughie said, don't worry, Peter, he says, you're doing my eulogy when I go as well. He says, but you're also doing the raffle and the auction as well. So there you have it. That's the best way to sum it up when Roughie eventually goes
Peter,
to.
So when is it?
It's a good few years, Tom.
Yeah.
I've already, you'll be pleased to know, I've already got my suit dry cleaned for the PFA doing Sunday. I'll see you on there.
Oh, honestly, I mean, how gutted are we all? And the great thing is, Hugh, you know, we never need to invite you to our table because you're always there as one of these executive members. You always get to the top table, Hugh, but it's a great night. I mean, I absolutely love it because footballers love dressing room humour. And, you know, I'll go up there and I'll pay tribute to them and then I get the chance to absolutely batter them, Roughie. It's a great night. It's a good laugh.
Yeah, it's great, but you can see the support. You can see the players as actually go up there because they know what's going to happen. And I'm sure some of them hope they don't win the award because they know what's going to happen once they get up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Tam, you were going to be, that was your first official night out with the PLZ team at the PFA, and we've missed it. Should we organise something for it in the summer when we get out?
Absolutely. I mean, so far in my PLZ career, we've had two magnificent nights out, and I look forward to the next one. I look forward to any sort of night out. I mean, I did one last night and I've got another one tonight, Peter. Two of my mates from Motherwell that I sit at the football way, we're having a wee three-way WhatsApp conversation tonight, and we'll each have a wee bottle of something cracked open as well, and it'll be great just to have a wee chat and just to have a wee catch up, because I keep saying there's a danger that we all turn into soppy old fools at times like this, but the football for me, which is why I'm just I can't stop. It's automatic now, shaking my head when I think about it. The guys in charge need to remember how much football means to all of us. And we don't want to just hear constant bickering. We want to get the game back. We want to get the fans back inside the stadia if at all possible. And we want to get back sitting, having a laugh with your pals and going for a pint or a curry after the game. That's a huge part of football. And I just wish the suits would remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly looking forward to the football season coming back, and as we've all discussed, it could be quite a while in the future. Anyway, apart from that, I want to thank everyone on YouTube as well. Lots of people, Hugh Smiley, and lots of people, Mark Dolman, John McLean, and of course Darren Leslie. There's so many people who follow us on YouTube. Thank you to each and every one of you, and of course on our Facebook page as well, live every day, Monday to Friday. George Mullins, a regular, Paul McGregor, Kevin McGinley, Paul McGurk, Alec Kelly, of course, comes on regularly and gives his thoughts. And he's just mentioned Alec, and I think it's a very good point. Tonight at 8 o'clock is yet again a clap for the NHS, a clap for the carers, a clap for people who are putting their lives on the line for us at 8 o'clock tonight, which is well worthy of mentioning. Thanks, Sir Alec, for reminding us all of that. And the reason I mention it is if you do like our content, like, share, and follow us on Facebook. We'd absolutely be delighted if you could do that. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget, if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get all the latest content, all the stuff that we do on there, and daily bulletins keeping you up to date with Scottish football. It's as simple as that. We are regularly the only channel giving you a regular news bulletin every day, and over and above that, a show Monday to Friday at 4 o'clock. So do subscribe to our channel. Thank you to Lachlan Cameron for joining us. I thought that was great. I'm really looking forward to having Scott Brown on tomorrow. We'll have a good chat with Scott Brown and maybe go through a bit of his career as well and have a good bit of banter with him. I think that will be an interesting chat as well, to be honest with you, Hugh MacDonald.
Well, it'll be interesting in the light of the PSG decision today for one thing, Peter, and Scott now is very, very good value as an interviewee. He's really grown into the role of Celtic captain. So, yep, looking forward to that. Yep,
absolutely. Okay, from Roughie, Tam Cowan, and of course Hugh MacDonald, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thank you very much. Whose dog is that yapping away in the background?
That's mine.
I'm really trying to get
okay, perfect timing. So from Tam's Doug as well. Thank you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.